Aunt Hai's 80-year-old heart nearly exploded when she saw another woman throwing herself into her husband Gao Lejuan's arms. Furious, she stormed off straight back 75 years to complain to her mother. Even though Hai now looked older than her own mother, the woman recognized her instantly. She smiled warmly, delighted her daughter had lived such a long life. But she couldn't help wondering, why hadn't her son-in-law come along? Meanwhile, back in heaven, the other woman misunderstanding was unraveling. Lejuan explained that his job here required traveling between Earth and the underworld. On his very first trip, aboard the subway to hell, he'd noticed this woman. There was something about her familiar, yet strange. When the train reached Hell's station, shadowy hands began dragging the damned off the cars. The woman was about to be taken too, but in a split-second decision, Lejuan held her down, saving her. Hai wasn't buying it. Admit it, you did it because she's young and pretty, and I'm old. Lejuan tried to protest, but the woman made things worse, calling Hai grandma. To make matters stranger, the woman couldn't remember her own name or who she was looking for. The moment she stepped into heaven, all her memories vanished, except one, Gao Lejuan's name. So, with nowhere else to go, she stayed in their home. Hai lost sleep over it. The next day, while cleaning, Hai found a strange object that looked like a crystal grape. Inside it played a video of her attacking someone yesterday's outburst. Lejuan explained, in heaven, when you do bad things, a grape like this appears. Collect 6, and you earn a vacation in hell. Thanks to last night, Hai already had 4. 2 more, and she could take a trip to the underworld. Smirking, she told Lejuan, if he didn't want her to go to hell, he'd better get rid of the amnesiac woman. Lejuan took her to the Heaven Administration Center to search her records. There, he learned about escapees' souls destined for hell who'd slipped into heaven, losing their memories upon arrival. If caught, their punishment would be worse than hell itself. With no choice, Lejuan brought her back home. Hai, furious he hadn't removed her, demanded answers. The woman cheerfully announced that Lejuan had given her a name, Xiao Su. Lejuan's stomach sank. Hai's eyes narrowed. This was bad. Before the fight could escalate, Heaven Center summoned Hai for re-education classes, giving Lejuan one last chance. When she returned, she didn't want to see Xiao Su again. Xiao Su, meanwhile, realized she needed her memories back. She tried unconventional methods, like hitting herself on the head with a frying pan. Nothing worked. When Hai returned from class, Xiao Su ran to hug her, saying she'd missed her. Hai ignored her and told Lejuan to go live the life he wanted. She was going to find her mother and live with her instead. At the center, Hai confirmed her mother was in heaven, in the year 1950. To get there, she took the time travel bus, passing through toll gates for 1950 and 1970, and arriving in a quaint, old-fashioned street. After hiking through hills, she reached a familiar old house and saw her mother, young again. They embraced, tears flowing. Her mother cooked Hai's favorite dishes. But she sensed something was wrong. Had her son-in-law mistreated her? Hai said no, but like a little girl, she wept beside her mother. Back in heaven, Lejuan wandered the marketplace in a daze. The director noticed and asked him to deliver bread to earth, bread that carried the words of the living to their deceased loved ones. The director reminded him he'd taken this job originally just to visit Hai when she was still alive. He should still follow his heart. With her mother, Hai confessed, no matter how old I am, you'd never dislike me. You'd still see me as your child. Unlike a husband with no blood ties. Her mother grew quiet, then revealed a secret. Years ago, Hai's father had brought home another woman, beautiful, pale-skinned. Her mother had felt inferior. One day, that woman had a baby, but it was Hai's mother who raised it. Miraculously, she even produced milk for the child, though she hadn't given birth. She loved that baby deeply, more than anything. The baby's real mother never once touched her child. Hai's mother pitied her, never knowing the joy of holding something so precious. Then, tragedy, to reward the woman for bearing him a child, Hai's father took her on a trip, the kind of trip Hai's mother had never received. But they died in a car accident that day. Hai finally understood. She had grown up thinking she was alone, but in truth, her mother had chosen her, not through blood, but through fate, and that bond was unbreakable. The next morning, Hai opened the door and saw Lejuan, bowing respectfully to her mother. She followed him home. On the road back, they spoke from the heart, sweetness replacing their quarrels. Neither knew that, back at their house, Xiao Su had just been spotted by a hell messenger. A man, diagnosed with cancer, feared for the fate of his wife, a woman slipping further into dementia with each passing day. He couldn't bear the thought of leaving her alone. So, one evening, he drove her to the ocean. Together, they stepped into the waves, ending their lives side by side. But death did not take them to the same place. He was sent to hell, while his wife found her way to heaven. Unable to rest, his love too strong to let go, he escaped from hell, crossing the boundaries of the afterlife, just to see if she was truly alright. This man was the real fugitive. And Xiaoxiu, the young amnesiac woman living in Hai Auntie's home? She wasn't the one hell's messengers were hunting at all. Her capture had only been a nightmare. Yet something strange began to stir in Hai Auntie's heart. One day, she noticed the family cat, Sonia, normally distant and aloof, suddenly playful with Xiaoshu. The only people Sonia ever warmed up to were Hai Auntie and Ai. That was the first spark of suspicion. Later, a simple moment triggered an even deeper doubt. They were watching people play badminton outside when a ball flew toward Xiaoshu. Without thinking, she opened the small umbrella she always carried. Hai Auntie froze. That reflex, it was exactly like Ai's. That night, Xiaoshu had another nightmare, Hell's messengers dragging her away. Terrified, she crept into Hai Auntie's bedroom, curling up beside her for comfort, her small hand slipping into Hai Auntie's pocket as she fell asleep. That tender habit was also something Ai used to do. Could it be? Could Xiaoshu actually be Ai, somehow brought to heaven? The next morning, the girl followed Hai Auntie to church. There, Hai Auntie noticed a man who, like her, retained his elderly appearance in the afterlife. But when she brushed his arm, it felt cold, his clothes damp, as if he'd just come from the sea. The pastor, annoyed by her distraction, told her not to disrupt the star map lesson. She didn't yet realize this man was the fugitive from hell. Outside, Hell's messengers were already combing heaven for the escapee. Inside, Hai Auntie took Xiaoshu to the Heavenly Records Center to ask about Ai's fate. The answer shook her. Ai had died, but she wasn't in heaven. That could only mean she'd gone to hell. If Ai was in hell, then who was living in her house? Hai Auntie became certain her husband, Gao Lejuan, must have smuggled Ai's soul into heaven. But when she told him, he shook his head. No matter how much she insisted, he didn't see the resemblance. People can change their age in heaven, Hai Auntie argued, so why not their face? Over dinner, Gao Lejuan tested the theory. Ai always ate from the big serving bowl, he said. Xiaoshu grinned, scooping up mouthfuls and proudly announcing she could eat 4 bowls if she wanted. The next day, as Hai Auntie prepared to go to church, Xiaoshu casually asked if the pastor was nice. That made Hai Auntie grumble, complaining about the man out loud. But in heaven, speaking ill of someone earns you punishment. A small, glowing grape appeared in her possession, a sign she was one step closer to being sent to hell. She now had 5, and 6 meant banishment. At church, she again saw the strange, damp-clothed man, Park Cheol-jin. While picking soybeans to make soy milk, he opened up about his past. He had spent years traveling, caring for his dementia-stricken wife. But when stage 4 colon cancer struck, he knew time was short. One final perfect day together, and then, in the quiet of the seaside, he drove into the water with her. Back in the present, heaven's messengers stormed the church, surrounding it. Only then did everyone realize Park Cheol-jin was the fugitive. In desperation, he grabbed Hai Auntie, holding a knife to her throat. He didn't want freedom. He didn't want revenge. All he wanted was to know if his wife was safe in heaven. The heavenly director told him there could be no special treatment. Rules were rules. Hell's messengers prepared to strike, but then a miracle happened. From Earth, Gao Lejuan returned early from work, holding a scarf he had received as a longing gift sent from a loved one in heaven to someone still living. This one was from Park's wife. She had knitted it for him before they died, proof that she was indeed here, safe. When Park Cheol-jin touched the scarf, tears streamed down his face. His wife, even in her fading mind, had remembered him until the end. The standoff ended. Hai Auntie was safe. Park allowed himself to be led back to hell, knowing that one day, he could meet his wife again in heaven. That evening, Hai Auntie returned home. Xiaoshu ran to hug her tightly, relief written all over her face. But unseen by them, the truth lingered. The real Ai was still in hell.